Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Circle of Knowledge podcast. I am your host, John Kovach Jr. Today's an awesome and amazing day and an opportunity for us to hear from one of my dear friends, an amazing speaker, and a wonderful coach, and an amazing person altogether. And I can't wait to highlight this individual. Before we bring this individual on, I'm super excited to just give you a few updates on the Champion Circle and the Circle of Knowledge Network. We are located in Salt Lake City, Utah, but we are expanding our reach. And so we'll be soon in the month of July this year, 2021, and so forth. We're growing into other cities. If you have any interest in learning more about that, go to mychampioncircle.com. But to get on with our show today, I'm really, really excited because this is an individual who I personally got to know and to listen to and to just really fall in love with her message and her mission. And I learned all of this from our experience speaking on the Amazon Prime Video Speak Up series hosted by Masoom and Dee Wong. And I'm so excited to get her on our podcast and to talk about, well, who she is, what she does, her professional life, her story, as well as her experience on the Speak Up production down in Dallas, Texas, just a few months ago. So we're really, really pumped and excited to welcome our dear friend, Jennifer Blair, everybody. Welcome to the show. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much, John, for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here, and it is so great to see you again, since I haven't seen you since our experience in Dallas together. So thank you.
And it really was an awesome experience. I mean, we'll get into the details later, but I know that the Speak Up staff and everyone behind production treated us like red carpet amazingly speakers, and it was such a wonderful experience, and we'll get into some more of that. But I am so excited to introduce you now. For my listeners who don't know, Jennifer is an amazing life coach and business coach. She's a consultant. She's a speaker. She's an author of so many amazing books. And there's just so much more to her than meets the surface. And we're excited to maybe dive a little bit deeper below that surface and to talk to you, hear from you, and what you have to bring to this world and why you've turned your life into the mission, the pathway that you're currently on. So I'll ask you, the first question is, and this is always the funnest, but always the hardest question to answer, which is, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your story, who you are and how you became Jennifer Blair today?
Oh, wow. Great question. And actually, I find it fun to answer that question. It's not too tough because when you're in this business, as I've been in for 20 years, you get used to sharing that. And our experience at Speak Up gave me an opportunity to share my deeper story, which I know we'll get to. But so Jennifer Blair, I'm originally a Texan. It was fun to come back to Texas to film our show. So I'm a Texan. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been here 30 years. So the way I got to Kentucky was I got married and moved across the country. Love conquers all. And I moved here to start a family and to do what I thought I was supposed to do in life, right? You know, to create this amazing experience with my family life. And I gave up a career to do that. So I did that for about 10 years. And my marriage had a moment of blowing up, and I went, I need to look at what's going on in life and with myself. And when I took a step back, I realized I had forgotten who I was, and which happens to so many of us when we have a crisis. It takes a personal crisis sometimes to bring us back to ourselves. And so that was my experience. I mean, I grew up in Texas, going to college, working for a corporation, had this great life, and then created another great life in Kentucky, being the president of the junior league, serving on boards, raising these two amazing children, and life blows up and you're like, what do I do with that? So went into a couple of years of figuring that out. And like I said, what I realized was I had forgotten who I was. And in that process, I started to look around me and realize there are a lot of other people who are living this life of the way they should be living it. And that I especially saw women who were just kind of going through the motions, kind of just doing what was expected of them. And it kind of became my mission to help people free themselves from the expectations of others, and to come back to yourself and live this fantastic life and put that fullness of who you are out into the world. And so, yeah, I remember saying after my divorce to my mother and sister, we were in California, I remember saying, I don't know what it is I'm going to do, but I'm going to go make a difference in the lives of women, and they have to know who they are. I just became very passionate about this, not realizing it would be turned into a almost 2-decade-old business of coaching people, writing, speaking, sharing that message about who you are. And the world needs you to be who you are, and to really show that out in the world. So that's sort of how I got to here. Is I ran across coaching. I had been thinking about writing a book about divorce and how to do it in a healthy way and how to use it as a launching point to create a great life. And I ran across, actually I was in a bookstore and I ran across a book called How to Live Your Best Life. And it said, therapy heals the past, coaching moves you forward. I'm like, I don't know what coaching is, but that's what I want to do. Yay. So I'm going to be a coach, whatever that means. And, 18 years ago, I'd tell people I'm going to be a life coach. And they're like, now what team is that? What sport are you coaching? So yeah, it just took off from there. And, every year I ask myself, do I still love this? And the answer, as long as I can say, yes, I love it, not just like it, but I love it, I stay in it. So it's a lot of fun.
And you're such a great communicator. I think that a lot of people have the vision and the mission to do great things or to do things to help others, but they fail to find the proper communication. And you seem to be either a natural communicator or somebody who's practiced this for a very long time, but you have such a way with words as well as a way of finding the I guess the connecting piece that a lot of people need. And I want to ask you kind of a follow-up question to your inspiration to turn around and help people with this coaching and what you're doing. What seems to be, other than your experience and your overcoming what you did, what else seems to be the driving force? Do you recognize that there are other people like you out there, or there are other people going through the same thing, or what is that driving force behind your mission?
Well, that's a great question, because I can remember, early on in the coaching industry, I was one of the first coaches in Louisville that really, and one of the first coaches that could actually make a living doing this too. And I remember being at a coaches meeting one time, and they're like, "You're so driven. What drives you this?" And I said, "Well, I love what I do, and I love my house." I want to keep my house. It was a sort of, there was a financial drive coming out of a challenging situation of divorce, which is never good for anyone financially. And so there was some of that was the drive to, just to be able to support myself and from that financial place. But the drive also comes from, when you see other people's success and you're part of that success. I was telling you earlier today, I took a client to lunch, someone I've worked with for about 8 years, and she just became partner of a CPA firm doing it as a flex time employee. So she became a partner working part-time. And, I was a big part of her journey, helping her get there, to say, you can do this, and giving her the tools and giving her the communication skills, helping her keep her boundaries, know who she was. So I think what drives me is I'm so lucky. It's a privilege to be on someone's journey when they open themselves up to you and you start to learn about them, and you're part of their life and their journey. And so it drives me that I get to continue to be part of people's lives, and I see their success. I see the joys. They share those things with me. And I also believe the message I have, even though it's my messages can be pretty kind of fundamental and basic, I think we need those reminders an awful lot. So that kind of keeps me going.
I love that. And I think my audience and a lot of what we teach and what we share on the show is exactly to the point you just mentioned. Though success is a simple, I guess a simple value and a simple act, a lot of times it's so simple that we overlook it. And then because we overlook it, that repetition for the simplicity is something that we constantly need. And I think it's not because we don't remember. I think it's because that simplicity is what resonates with us as we continue to receive it over time. That's beautiful.
Right. And it keeps us grounded because, as you know, there's a lot of, I always say, like, the shiny objects are out there distracting us all the time. And it's really easy to kind of go off here and veer off here and think you should be doing this. And before you know it, you're like, oh, what was it I was really supposed to be doing? So, or what is it that keeps me grounded and on track? And a lot of my work is very much based on having a lot of tools to stay grounded, to know who you are, to be able to keep going in. And you mentioned the word success, to find success in your definition of success. I mean, part of what drove me to start this business, besides just the excitement and feeling like it was a mission, I also wanted the freedom. I was a mom and I wanted to pick my kids up from school at 3:00 and hear how their day was and get them started on homework and then come back into my office and do a few things. So I very much created something that was true to my values and what was important to me, and created my own definition of success because of that.
I absolutely love that. And I love these conversations. Ever since we started interviewing some of the members who spoke on Speak Up, just right from the beginning, Jennifer, you get below the surface. You start talking about the details in a really great way. And I'm excited to dive into that. And I know that you somewhat have an idea of some golden nuggets you'd like to share with everybody. But before we get to those golden nuggets, I do want to ask, with there being just such a large percentage of the population of people who need what you provide or have they resonate with some of the concerns that you shared earlier, as well as the things that you could help them with. What seems, or what typically has been one of the first steps people need to take in order to begin, transfer, or pivot to this journey of finding their own personal success, as well as overcoming the challenge they're facing?
Right. Well, of course, the very first step for anybody is awareness. Being aware that you need to shift or change or something's missing. Awareness is always the first step of anything to me. And then the next is, I think really that first step, and this is so common in my message, is, I think that people get they come across an idea and they get so excited to get going. They want to start taking that action, and they want to get in there. They want to, let's get going. Let's just start. And, I really suggest to people to take a moment, take a deep breath, take a moment, and make sure that you know who you are and how you ground to that success. The first step to me is knowing who you are and being clear about that, and then how you are going to show up in the process of what you're creating. Because otherwise, it can sometimes be difficult to sustain it. For people who get burned out, for people who they get down this journey, and this ends up being a lot of my clients who, they've been, in a certain job for 30 years, and they wake up one day and like, why did I do this? And what did, why am I here? And they're like, I don't really love this. I never have. I don't know why I chose this profession in the first place. And I'm like, well, let's come back to, instead of saying, let's find you a new job or a new career, let's come back to who you are and what's important to you, and make sure that anything you create is from this basis of who you are. So that first step is actually knowing that.
I love that. That imagery that was going through my brain when you described that was many people try to bury themselves in the process of gaining new skills or pursuing new paths, but you are the number one fundamental to the success of your life.
Absolutely. In fact, part of what I really suggest to people, not only are you, because you are the number one fundamental, key element to the success, I always say, self-care must be part of your business plan. You've got to, it's not just having that awareness, you've got to continually come back to yourself and remember that. And it's like, you've got to continue to put gas in the car to go on your journey. You've got to continue to do that. So important.
I 100% agree. I'm writing that in the comment section now, because I think that is such a that is a burning quote that is so important for people to hear. And if they catch any sound bites, that I hope that this is something that they recognize as just an important piece. And I'll put it down here below. This might cover my face a little bit, but I'll pull this up here. It's so funny how it says John said it, but you said it.
I love that. I love that. No, but I that's something I have preached from day one, because you know, you can get in there and jump in and do things and sustain that for a while, and maybe even a long while, maybe even years. But at some point, if you aren't taking care of other things, there's going to be part of your life that suffers. And to me, success is a big old whole definition, not just success in the work you do, but success in life and in relationships, and making sure that you have a life that's intact, not just a great, successful business. So, really.
I absolutely love that.
Yes.
Okay, I have another question for you, and this one is more on the lines of what we do on the show, but and I always ask this in a different way, but we usually get really cool foundational truths and answers.
Okay.
The answer is if, based on what you know now or what you've experienced, what are some golden nuggets of knowledge that you would love to share with the audience? And knowing that these are mothers, entrepreneurs, business owners, families, people interested in growing in business or just personal development in general, that seems to be my clientele, or even just my listener audience. So what is a piece of golden nugget or knowledge that you'd love to share with our listeners?
Wow, there's so many. How much time do we have today?
Yeah. Let's go all day long. I could talk to Jennifer all day.
Exactly. I think, and you've heard me say it. I'm not going to say it in depth again, but again is, know who you are, be who you are. You can have anything you want in life, but never forget who you are, and make sure you're bringing that authenticity into anything you do. So that's one thing that I think is just a critical foundational thing to know. The second piece of this is I'm big on passion. Passion is a really important part of any endeavor that you're doing. If you're a mother, if you're, be excited about being a mom, being a stay-at-home mom. If you are an entrepreneur, make sure you're bringing this aliveness, this determined, authentic aliveness and vitality to what you're doing, and fill your life with things that make you come alive. For example, I used to do salsa dancing. It's something I took up in my 40s. And part of my prep when I started doing speaking with my business was I would go take a salsa dance lesson in the afternoon before I had a speaking engagement at night, and I'd bring that energy into the talk that I was doing. So make sure that you bring that aliveness to what you're doing. Another nugget is take risk. Be scared, do it anyway, take that risk. In fact, if it's not scary, it may not be a big enough goal. It may not be a big enough challenge to yourself. So be scared and go do that, because every time that you take a risk and you get through it, whether or not you fully succeed or fail, but the fact that you show up and do it is building an element of confidence. It's building resiliency. It's building, it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable to the fact that I'm going to try something that may not work out so well. So you're building this fantastic ability to give yourself more permission to show up and do the things in your life. So again, that values, that passion, that take risk, be scared, and that goes along with also permission. So much of the work that I do, I see people hold back. Give yourself permission to really go after what you want, and don't dumb it down, don't hold back, but full on permission to go and get the things that you want and believe it. I have this tool I like to give people, when I'm working with clients, they'll say, are you, they'll tell me something they want to do, and they'll tell me all the steps they're going to take in the action. And then I'll say to them, well, on a scale of 0 to 10, what's your level of believability that you can do it and you're going to succeed? And if it's anything below an 8, 9, or 10, I'm like, we have some work to do, because it's like you're going to shortchange yourself. You're not going to fully believe it. So I pay attention to that believability and making sure that you can do something. So test yourself when you're working on things, like rate yourself on that scale. What's my level of believability? Am I going to be able to really do this? Do I believe in myself enough to go show up and do this? So those are just a few of the thousands of nuggets I could give you today.
That's right. I love that. There are so many thousands of nuggets. I just wrote that down here briefly in the chat section so everyone could see that. But I love some of these principles. Who you are. Bring energy and be alive. Take risks and that scare you enough to take action, and build the strength of giving yourself permission to do great things. And I think that those are beautiful, beautiful sound bites into what you could learn from someone like Jennifer, who's an amazing professional, someone who's been through hell and back and has had the experience enough to go and train and coach and teach people on those principles. And what I love, Jennifer, is that it really is simple. It's not easy. It's never easy. The road was the road worth taking was never easy, but it is a simple road. It's a simple road between point A and point B.
And you know what makes it simple? I think you're right about that. I was actually having this discussion with someone earlier today. I think we try to overcomplicate it. You talked about how when people, they kind of get on this path of entrepreneurship and self-discovery, and, they read this book and they go to this class and they do this skill. And it's really not, you can bring it back down to simply start, simply take the next, I always say, you only need to take the next best step every step of the way. And then the next step, and then the next step. And if it's grounded in who you are and what you're doing, it also is really easy to make decisions. Well, no, that's not part of who I am. I'm not going to do that. Or yes, that aligns. Let's get going. So I think that what I've seen is people overcomplicate this, and they don't have to. It's really
man. I love that. Just to take a quick opportunity to say hello to some of our listeners. We had Yasmira say hello. She's saying hi to you. Our good friend Erica Barney says whoop whoop. I love that. I appreciate people throwing in the comments. And then we also have a good friend from our mastermind group, actually, Melody Johnson, says she loved your quote on give yourself permission to do great things. Absolutely love that. Fantastic.
Yes. In fact, I have you'll love this, John, the very first coaching exercise tool that I created, and I've created over 60. I've got a new workbook out that has all of my coaching exercises, but I created a permission slip. And it's a permission slip that you write to yourself. It's kind of like for those of you who are mothers and you write the permission slip for kids to go on field trips. It's like who, what, when I give myself permission to. So anybody that resonated with, if you send me an email, we're going to give contact. I'm happy to share my permission slip with you.
I love that. Share my permission slip. I love that. Everyone take note of that. That is a really, really important process and principle. Oh, I'd like to shift gears for a second. Okay. And I'm going to interject with a small little, you'll know what I'm about to show, the Speak Up preview. But I want to talk to people about how you and I met and your experience speaking on the Speak Up Amazon Prime TV show. And I also want to just learn and maybe give a little bit of insight and maybe even a teaser as to why people need to go and watch your episode, because you had an amazing message that I think really touched the hearts of a lot of the members there. And for those people who are listening in or watching on the live show, we did have a live audience that we were speaking to in the production studio. Most of them were predominantly the speakers of that season and the production staff and a few invited people. But the few invited people were still audience members nonetheless, whether their connection was spouse, friend, significant other, or just happy fan of the speakers. But everyone in the room was very, very touched by your message and what you shared. And I say that from experience, having been in the room and listened to everyone's speeches. And so I'm really excited to share this. Let me pull up the video here, and you guys look for Jennifer Blair in this video.
My name is Clara Capano.
Chanel Aramelli.
I'm John Kovacs Jr.
Jennifer Blair.
Taylor Cole Longacre,
Tristan Helm. Hi, I'm Gary McDermott.
Meredith Allen,
Sorana Pascario,
Nick Lowry,
Sherry James,
and James Pope.
Experience these amazing speakers and more on the Speak Up stage on Amazon Prime Video and MPN Global.
Oh my gosh, that just gave me chills again watching that and hearing that music come on. I'm like, oh, transported me back there. So much fun.
Oh, it really was. And again, they made us feel like all stars, and we should feel that way all the time because we are great speakers. And it was a really fun experience. Production, the other speakers on the lineup. I mean, I have a personal connection with each of them. We've built these friendships and these relationships, and forever will be in season 3. But I'd love to hear from you what some of your experiences were being on the production, giving your speech, and sharing your message in that platform. I know you're a published author. I know that you've spoken on stages before. You're no newbie to the all-star world, but tell us a little bit about what it's like to speak on Speak Up.
Wow. I will tell you, thank you for those lovely words about my experience. I have to be really honest with you. It was one of the scariest, hardest things I've ever done. I mean, in fact, to go back a little bit, I took a master speaking class with Dee Dee Wong, who you saw at the end of that video. She's the executive producer. She did all the casting for this. And I'd been in her class in December and January. And the end of class, we had to do a showcase. And I've been speaking for 18 years. But in her class, I learned a different type of speaking, one that's really about storytelling that allows your audience to connect with you in a different way. There's a much more vulnerability instead of just, I always got up and thought I needed to teach and give a lot of information. And what I learned from that was, no, you need to let them know who you are a little bit more. So, every week I'd show up for this class and it was so nerve-wracking. You never knew what Dee Dee was going to throw at you. So the day before our showcase, I had a one-on-one with her because I'd been doing speaking and I was getting some feedback. And all I could think was, I've loved this class. I've learned and grown so much, but I cannot wait for this to be over with so I'm not stressed out about this class every week. And we get on this call and she says, by the way, I want to invite you to be a cast member of the Speak Up. And she tells me about this and I went, oh my gosh, I've got 2 more months of stress, so I was like, this is going to be so scary. And after I said yes, and I freaked out for a good 2 weeks, I got myself grounded and said, okay, really what you got to do, again, that self-care, just you have to show up and feel good in your body. You've got to, feel confident. And what is that going to take? It's not going to be from preparing a speech for months. It's going to be from eating well, sleeping well, moving, making sure that you feel grounded within yourself. So that's kind of what I did to prepare. And I did create a speech. But for me, I created something. I knew the story I wanted to tell. I knew the points I wanted to make. But 2 weeks before, I still did not have a topic name. And I did not exactly know how it would all kind of come together. And I was actually on the phone with my daughter. I was giving this practice talk to a mastermind group in like 45 minutes, and I still didn't have the name of the talk. And so we were talking about it, and suddenly she's like, Mom, what you're telling them is about like your story. You're rewriting your story. I'm like, oh, that's it. So my talk is called How to Rewrite Your Story, and it all just clicked. So I spent the next couple of weeks putting the words in, and because I'm a writer and wordsmith, I wanted to make sure all the words were narrative, and I wanted to use all the great language around writing. So learning my speech, I made it a little bit harder on myself, but I wanted to really kind of nail the intro and the end, and I knew the rest of it would flow. But I have to say, the experience of doing it, I knew that it was one of those scary things. Take the risk, challenge yourself to come to this. And as John said, this was a live audience, and you went into the studio and there's these big, huge lights and 6 cameras and a countdown clock, no teleprompter, no notes. Like, you got to get up there and be able to pace and do this. And so for me, I I got grounded. I knew if I could get the first line out, I'd be okay. And I did. And I had anchors in my audience. I actually, Nick Lowry, I believe, was one of your first guests on this podcast. Nick was on my right. My sister was on my left, and Dee Dee was in the middle. And I just kept going back and forth, talking to them and, checking the clock every once in a while. But, it was an amazing experience to really not just to show up and do your talk and get through that scary thing, but, to make friends and to meet these other amazing souls who are doing fantastic work out there. And for our season in particular, we shared the stage and we all had this kind of common message that we're different but work together. And I felt like there was so much synergy and power that came because of each person and who they are. And it's like I remember sitting down, I think John, you and I were sitting next to each other. We had a speaker group meeting the night before, and we were sitting next to each other, and we all just sort of looked around and decided we were friends and liked each other too. It was a lot of fun. So, and Dee Dee kept saying to us, this is going to be fun. And I didn't expect it to be as much fun as it was, but it was really fun. And everybody was rooting for each other and for their success. And I did not get to see everybody live because, when you're back in makeup and getting mic'd and that sort of thing, you miss a couple of people, on each side of you. But I did have the awesome privilege of seeing your talk, John, and was in the audience. And I remember how you started with your arm up and you started to tell your story about the cave. I've always been terrified of caves. I'm still terrified. I'm never going into a cave, even more so after your talk. But I was so enthralled by your message and your storytelling. And when I've gone back and looked at some of the other speakers, everyone has their own story and message that is so powerful. And yeah, so it was a fantastic experience.
Just you explaining and sharing some of those things bring me back to that, and so many emotions. I agree. It's kind of terrifying knowing that you're in a literal spotlight. I mean, I took some selfies and some video of myself up there on stage during our rehearsals and production. And I remember thinking, man, it does not look the same on my phone as it does. They really made us look really amazing. You look amazing anyways. I've got a lot of gray hair.
I look at the difference in how I looked for rehearsal, which, I did my own makeup and hair. And then I showed up. And of course, the day we were taping, if you remember this, it was pouring down rain. In fact, we had tornado warnings the night before. And I don't know if you got the notice on your phone in the hotel, and it was like my watch was going off, my phone was going off, like tornado warning, take cover. And I was like, I don't have time for a tornado. I'm taping in the morning. I remember looking out the door, like the little peephole of my hotel door, and looking down the hall. I didn't see anybody else. I thought, well, if they're not worried about it, I'm not going to. I'm getting back in bed. I'm going to sleep. But it was raining and humid. And I got to the studio, and by the time I got there, like hair had fallen, makeup looked washed out. And so huge shout out to, Magic Production Studios. They had a makeup artist there that was she was fantastic, who made all of us look, the best, made us look our best for camera. And I was so grateful for that as well. So, yeah. And I want to say one other thing about John, yes, all of us, had our own processes and nerves and that sort of thing, but it was so celebratory. I mean, just, we all were rooting for each other. There was so much support and love in the room. And, and then this huge celebration afterwards of photos and, our awards that we got. And it was just top class, top notch. It was fantastic.
I agree with all of that. And I thank you for sharing that, because it really was an awesome experience. And for any of you listeners who are interested in growing your speaking career or becoming more well-known through the production of television, we encourage you to reach out. We do have the connection with the production studio and the team, as well as Dee Dee, who is an amazing consultant / speaker / what doesn't Dee Dee do, right? But she does take a few individuals who will become cast members each season. And if you have any questions or would like to learn more, please reach out to me and I'll connect you with Dee Dee. But I love this. I love this so much. And your speech was so much fun. And I agree. It was cool to kind of learn the process that you went through your story and rewriting your story. And I've heard that message in many ways before throughout my life. And the way that you said it was just such a fun and engaging. And it almost felt like when you told your story, Jennifer, it made it feel like it was possible for anybody to overcome their challenges. It made it feel like, no matter where you're at or how deep or how too far gone you've walked down the path you're on, you made it feel, and I think feeling is an important piece to this. You just made it feel like it was accessible and capable and possible for any of us to rewrite our story. And I love that.
Right. And at any point in life, it for anything, it's that's sort of what it was even just for me telling, I told the story about when I was 13 and I had this aptitude testing and I was told that I was not really qualified to do much. And so that one incident at 13 years old shut me down for years to go try to be perfect, live this perfect life. And so when you think about the stories we tell ourselves and the impact it has on us, and doing this talk, I think made me realize how much I have actually, I don't want to say overcome that, how I truly have changed that story. I mean, not only did I change the story of not feeling like that enoughness, but I was told that my vocabulary was so bad, I was only qualified to be the level of a secretary. And what did I do? I went out and published books. So I used that lack of vocabulary to go be a best-selling author. And it was just realizing that you can do it. You can, my big message to people is you can have anything you want, you can do anything you want, and you can accomplish anything you want as long as you remember who you are. And that's the key to it, is you just can't forget that. And so thank you. I'm so glad that touched you. I hope that my message and sharing my story with others, I hope it will inspire them. I know the people that I've talked to who have watched it, and some of the people that I've shared that with, they go, ooh, what story am I telling myself? And they might not have known they were telling themselves a story. So it kind of brings about this awareness to go, oh, wow, I used to tell this story. I need now I can do it differently. So it really is a talk that gives you sort of this, frees you and gives you permission type of talk.
Oh, I love that. And one of the first things that I had said about you in this interview was that you're an amazing communicator. And for that to be the case in your story, for someone to say, it's not that great, you're as good to be a secretary, that is amazing and wild to me, because that's not the person that I see or know today, which is really cool, because many of us don't get to see the journey, but we do get to see the end product. And that is a lot of the representation of ourselves. I would like to ask you a question before we kind of start to wrap things up and talk about how people can get a hold of you and so forth. But tell me a little bit about the books you've written. I know that there's a couple there, and how do people find them? What are they called? What are they about? And tell us a little bit about your book experience.
So the first book I wrote was called The True You, and it was a compilation of columns that I wrote for a magazine. I talk about this story in my Speak Up talk, and I wrote for a magazine for 6 years, put all those together in a book called The True You. So I rewrote that book during when COVID came and shut down and a lot of things changed in life. I asked myself the question, when I get to the end of this, what do I want to feel good about? And I decided to rewrite that book, which is now The True You Reimagined. So I took it, added new material, edited it, and then the day I sent that to the publisher, I sat down and wrote the True You workbook. I wrote this workbook, literally in 2 days. Literally 2 days. Spent about a month editing, and I'm so proud of both of these. They are just, it's really, I'm very proud of it. It's the work that I've done. It's 18 years of wisdom, of, I didn't want to talk at people. I wanted to give people tools and tips, something that would resonate with them. So you can get these books, and it's almost like you can do some self-study for yourself to really see what resonates with you. And they're divided into 6 sections: uncover your authenticity, cultivate balance in being, pursue your passions, enhance your work, enrich your relationships, and break free. So there's kind of the 6 categories I think that are really key to work in life that work. So you can find those on Amazon. You can find them on barnesandnoble.com. You can find them on my website, www.excavive.com. So you can find those very easily. And then the other book is the Women Who Boss Up book, which was a collaborative effort that reached #1 international bestseller when it was released last September 1st. And that's a compilation of stories of women and their journeys and how they've bossed up in their life. So those are the 3 main books that I have right now. So, and plus the 4th that's the original book as well, still available on Amazon too.
Just pulling that up here. I feel like
Yeah.
people should see the cover of the Women Who Boss Up. That's a powerful, powerful book. And I love that you've interviewed and have gathered their stories. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say the next season taping for Speak Up, which is taking place at the end of July, one of my co-authors, Yamilka Rodriguez, is going to be on Speak Up then. And another one of our colleagues that we met, Clara Capano, she was also in this book. And then one of my long-term clients is going to be on the stage for Speak Up, and she was in the second Boss Up book. So amazing, amazing stories from these women that Tam Luke put this together. It was not my putting together the book. I was just in the book. So it was fantastic.
That is amazing, and what a really cool thing. And I can't wait to meet that person. I know some of us are actually flying down to the production for
are
the
you
next
really?
we're gonna go start the party.
Oh my gosh, because I came really close to doing that, but I'm thinking I may go to Croatia instead. So have an opportunity to go on vacation that Friday, Saturday, but otherwise I had thought about going down there. So I will offline give you their names and make sure you get a chance to meet them because they're fantastic. Yeah.
That's awesome. I look forward to that, and what a great, awesome connection. So, Jennifer, this has been amazing, and I hope it's not the last time we do this because this has been a really great conversation. Plus, the nuggets of knowledge shared and some of the other fun things that we've been able to develop here. But how can our listeners get to know you better? How can they follow you and reach out to you? What is the best way that they could connect with you so that if they want to learn more, or if they want to get fired up in this, girl boss mentality, what do they need to do to find you?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. There's several ways. Of course, I'm on all the social media. I'm on Instagram, Excavive. You can follow me at Excavive again on Instagram, on LinkedIn. It's Jennifer Blair on LinkedIn. On YouTube, I have my own channel, which is Jennifer Blair Excavive Coaching and Consulting. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jennifer Blair. So I'm on and Facebook, of course. Facebook, Jennifer Blair. I have my Jennifer M. Blair for Facebook and Excavive Coaching and Consulting page. So those are all the social channels in which you can find me. You can also send me a message through my website, send me messages through social media to reach out to me. And I love hearing from people. Even if you have a simple question, let me be a resource for you. I'm happy to be of service in any way that I can. So, and my direct email, jennifer@excavive.com as well. So happy to connect with anyone.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing it. I don't know how to bring this up other than I know before the show you mentioned that you wanted to share a gift with our listeners. Would love for you to share that, and thank you in advance because that's an amazing opportunity for them. And how can they find that free gift, and what was your special offer?
Okay, so I have two things today. One is my PDF, Be Who You Are, 6 Ways to Excavate Yourself. You can find that by going onto my website and signing up with your email, and it'll be right there on the homepage, and you will immediately get this PDF. And what I love about this is some of the things we talked about today about values and passion and loving what you do and, trying things anyway. This is a downloadable PDF that has exercises to help get you on your path and to have some more insight about that for yourself. So that's free to everybody, who's listening. I also decided, because I just so appreciate when people listen in to, John and I, having this conversation, and I love it when people actually do tune in and listen. And so I love to give people offers for that because, I want people to be able to grow and learn as much as they want to. So I noticed you had up earlier my store. So I have a store on my website called, if you go again to www.excavive.com to the store, you will see on there all of my books, products, services, all of my coaching packages, and I'm getting ready to put 2 new products on there next month. One is a values product, one is another expansion of my 6 ways. It'll be 12 ways to excavate yourself. And for all listeners today, good until July 15th, I have a special discount code of 10% off anything and everything that you want to purchase. And so the code is C of K 10. So Circle of Knowledge, C of K, 10, and it's not case sensitive. So please take advantage of that. I would love for someone to be able to get some of these books at a very good discounted price.
Awesome. And I put it there in the notes section or the chat. So everyone on every channel should be able to see that, as well as when you listen to this back on your podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, you will also see that offer and those codes in the comments or the description of the podcast episode. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing this. And thank you for sharing your story. Again, I go back to your mission, and it's been such a really refreshing and again enlightening experience, always hearing you speak and always experiencing that feeling of, wow, it really is possible. And you make that so simple for our listeners, for the people who you touch. And and I can only go as far as to say is I know and confidently believe that you do that for those who you work with and those who you are currently engaged with. And so I just thank you for who you are, what you've done, and for where we are all going together. I can't wait. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with others. It truly will make a difference in the world. And I believe that.
Thank you so much, John. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing. I mean, you're hosting this podcast and how you're out there influencing and encouraging and motivating in such a huge way. I look at your enthusiasm and how rich it is, and the people that are connecting with you. I hope they know how special that is, because, I think what you bring to the world with who you are, and again, that enthusiasm and authenticity is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you as well. Wow, this is awesome. I need to do this like every day so I can just take in
Just give it all in. Bring it all in. Exactly.
Well, Jennifer, thank you again. And everyone, please go to www.excavive, that's EXCAVIVE, there we go, .com to find her store, to find more products, to find more about Jennifer Blair, the amazing executive, the amazing life coach and business coach and consultant, speaker, author, and more. She is an incredible woman. I'm grateful for our friendship, and thank you for being on the Circle of Knowledge podcast.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody listening out there has a fantastic day. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, we'll take this opportunity to say goodbye to everybody. If you're listening on the live show, please go to the Circle of Knowledge podcast website by finding us on any one of the podcast channels, or you can simply just go to the mychampioncircle.com, where you'll find a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and how we can come to your city, where we offer amazing networking experiences and events, as well as the opportunity to grow and become a champion in every area of your life. I want to thank you all for the production and all that goes into this. And if it weren't for you, the listeners, we wouldn't do this, because we really are motivated by the things that you want to learn. So thank you very much. And until next time, which you'll be able to hear from another speaker from the Speak Up Show on season 3, which you'll be in tune this week to follow up on, and you'll be able to listen to that live. Everybody, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye.